Joining us this evening to explore South Africa's used car market. It's opening 2026 with double-digit growth, signaling resilience, demand, and shifting buyer priorities. Is Chief Executive Officer at Auto Trader George Mini. George, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey Benito, and it's always great being on with you on Smile FM because you smile so broadly. It puts a smile on my face.
I see Auto Trader's data showing more than 34,000 used vehicles changing hands last month in January, signaling double-digit growth in value and volume. This is just not month on month, but it's year on year. Why are we seeing this happen?
Well, Benita, I think January delivering double-digit growth. First of all, January is the strongest month in new, mostly new, but but mostly used car sales. We see the strongest month in terms of site visits, in terms of searches, in terms of inquiries to dealers. So people seem to come back from holiday, and a car puts a smile on their face because it's definitely the strongest month. It's been like that for many years. So that being said, however, there was momentum coming out of the end of last year, and we were seeing these kinds of numbers. Obviously, January is stronger. We were seeing these kinds of numbers coming out of October, November, and December. So the market seems to be confident, in a quagmire of issues within our country and within our planet. I think people still enjoy driving cars in South Africa.
You've spoken about the resilience of the used car markets. Is this also indicating possibly increased consumer confidence given the trend not only in January but what has been transpiring in 2025 as well?
Yeah, I think there is growing consumer confidence. I like to call it cautious optimism. Cautious optimism. That for me is a good word. South Africans have been through a lot in the past decades, and I think it has taught us to be cautionary optimistic and not put our heads in the sand, but at the same time not die in a hole. So yes, that cautious optimism for me shows through in these numbers. And I think second to that is, besides a house, a car is the second biggest purchase a human being will make in terms of monetary value. And if used car is buoyant, new car is buoyant, that should be a strong indicator of consumer confidence.
Toyota is still number one with almost 6,000 used units sold in January. Ford, VW, not too far behind. What are these brands, George, doing right in the pre-owned space?
That is a very good question, because South Africans, like many countries around the world, but I think more so South Africans, are very brand conscious when it comes to cars. The likes of the Ford Ranger, the Toyota Hilux are still the two top performing vehicles on our platform, and then the mid-level vehicle, the VW Polo Vivo and the VW Polo are up there. The one entrant that has been around now for possibly the last year or two has been the Suzuki Swift, and the likes of the Hyundai Grand i10, which then signals there's a surge in the demand for affordable, smaller vehicles. So the consumer's clearly feeling the pinch, but it's not stopping consumers from buying and driving cars. Incidentally, consumers seem to be going for lower mileage cars as well, because the average mileage of a vehicle for the high quality car seems to be around 70 to 71,000 kilometers.
Is this getting value for your money?
Correct, yes. So the lower a car's mileage, the less it's obviously been driven, and the higher its resale value, incidentally. So consumers that go for lower mileage cars are likely paying a slight premium versus higher mileage cars, but consumers are buying these lower mileage cars, which is good. It also tells me that consumers driving new cars are trading their cars sooner, because how would these new cars that have low mileage end up in the used car market?
That's a good point. Is this as a result of economic pressures, or what else do you think would explain this particular trend with the low mileage in the pre-owned space?
Certainly, consumers that want a new car possibly can't afford it. Economic pressures, because we're seeing it on two fronts. The first front is lower mileage, small, affordable vehicles. Suzuki Swift, Hyundai Grand i10 as an example. Polo Vivo's still in there, but it's slightly more pricey. And then Chinese vehicles. Chinese vehicles, are trading at a similar rand value to what these smaller, high quality used car traditional brands are selling for. For instance, the Suzuki Swift second hand, you can pick one up at 36,000 kilometers for around 200 to 210,000 rand. You could pick up a Chinese vehicle, which is a lot larger and low mileage for around maybe 30 or 40,000 rand more.
Wow, that's quite interesting. So, do you think that in terms of the Chinese vehicle, that value may increase? Maybe, I suppose, given greater consumer confidence?
If you mean by value, will the Chinese vehicles continue to grow, expand, and be popular with South Africans? I think that is going to continue for the foreseeable future. The reality is, as much as we might be a traditional European car country, where the cars we drive are traditionally from either Germany or Europe, and then Japan being Toyota, there is this shift towards Chinese vehicles. And the only reason is because of what I call the price to value delta. They build cars that are possibly 80% of the build quality of a traditional European version or counterpart, but at 60% of the price. And I think that price to value in our economic environment is what the consumer goes for.
80%, you say there, George. Is that a reflection of quality?
So 80% of the build quality. So the Chinese vehicles, in my opinion, are still not up there with the likes of the German luxury brands in terms of build quality. But they're getting there very fast. But the delta is at 60% of the price, and I think that the consumer is after that price to value. You could pick up a good SUV Chinese vehicle for 250 to 320,000 rand, almost brand new, for a very similar price to one of the small quality used vehicles that are of our traditional brands.
When looking at the traditional brands, looking at the premium brands, how are they doing within the pre-owned space?
Well, the traditional brands like Mercedes-Benz and BMW are not featuring in the top 10 any longer. If I run through the top 10 for January, it was the Ford Ranger in terms of sales, Ford Ranger, Toyota Hilux, VW Polo Vivo, VW Polo, Suzuki Swift, Toyota Fortuner, Toyota Corolla Cross, Isuzu D-Max, Hyundai Grand i10, and the Toyota Startlet. And if you really think about it, item number 3 and 4 and 5, which is the VW Polos and the Suzuki Swift, as well as 9 and 10, which is the Hyundai Grand i10 and the Toyota Startlet. That's 5 out of the top 10 vehicles being of the affordable, high quality, lower priced vehicles, the smaller cars that are affordable for consumers. So 5 out of the top 10, and the rest are Bakkies or 4x4s, and then the Toyota Fortuner, which is the large SUV, as you know. So consumers, there is a definite shift towards affordability, and a lot of consumers are going for the Chinese vehicles to get that affordability, but many consumers are sticking with traditional brands and going for the low mileage, high quality, smaller vehicles.
How do we explain Bakkies, very popular ones you mentioned early in the conversation, the Ranger and the Hilux? Those are not cheap vehicles, yet they're just so unstoppable in terms of the popularity within the second-hand market.
Yeah, so the top searched body type on Auto Trader is a SUV. It's a top search body type on AutoTrader. And when it comes to SUVs, particularly double cab Bakkies, double cab Bakkies take the SUV to the next level. What I mean by that is you get versatility, you get a 4-5 seater family vehicle, and you get the half-ton load area in the back. So there's a lot of versatility, and South Africans traditionally go for these double cab Bakkies because of that versatility. Also, high ride height, unstoppable for South African potholes.
Do you think that electric vehicles, hybrids, which are slowly entering the used car space, do you think that they may change this particular picture over the next few years?
Well, I certainly hope they do, because besides the efficiency of the vehicle and the effect on the planet, I think for me that is secondary to the technology itself. The technology of electric vehicles is just a better technology. To give you an example, an internal combustion engine vehicle consists of approximately 2,000 moving parts. An electric vehicle, not a hybrid, an electric vehicle tops off at maybe 10% of that, 200 moving parts. So from an electric vehicle standpoint, the technology is just better. So I'm hoping that it does gain traction. Unfortunately, what consumers are still concerned about is the battery life of a second-hand electric vehicle. Pure battery electric. New battery electrics are selling. Volvo has an excellent battery electric on the market at a really good price, and those are selling. So not selling to the degree that it's going to overtake internal combustion engines anytime soon, but they are gaining popularity. The trouble is the depreciation on these electric vehicles are quite harsh. The depreciation for electric vehicle has not yet reached parity with the depreciation on an internal combustion engine vehicle. And so when that depreciation reaches parity, and that depreciation is very dependent on consumer demand. Consumer demand drives what a vehicle ultimately is bought for or sold for. And consumers are very concerned about the batteries. There's nothing wrong with the batteries, but there is no long-term evidence yet in the country, and consumers are nervous. From a hybrid point of view, you mentioned hybrid. That is the middle step, and you can see vehicles like the Toyota Corolla Cross. BYD has brought out a hybrid. Most manufacturers have brought hybrids into the country. Those are flying much more than pure battery electric vehicles off the showroom floors today. So I think from a future perspective, hybrids are the way to go. Hybrids are going to potentially rival internal combustion engine vehicles before electric vehicles take hold.
I mean, I have no hard and fast evidence of it, but just anecdotally in speaking to colleagues and friends, the hybrid keeps cropping up more and more, and people are getting good experiences from it, so spending a lot less on their fuel in terms of navigating the switch between using the electric power and of course the fuel consumption, George.
Exactly. You could do the school run totally on battery energy, and then if you want to do a longer trip, you could do that on fuel, which is a lot more peace of mind.
Which 3 questions do you feel every used car buyer should be asking before signing that offer to purchase?
Very good question, because there's a list longer than 3, but if I had to pick the top 3, it would be, has this vehicle been in an accident? They should ask the dealer to evidence that. So not just, has the vehicle been in an accident? No, accept that. Evidence it. So has the vehicle been in an accident? Has the vehicle got full service history? I think that's a very important one, because if you can evidence that a vehicle has full service history, you know that the vehicle's been taken care of. And then definitely the question of test drive the car with somebody that is knowledgeable. I would ask to really bring somebody, test drive the car with somebody that's knowledgeable, and make sure that there's no funny creaks, cracks, or noises that come out of the car when when buying it. And then if I had to add kind of a fourth element is with a used car, always try and take an aftermarket warranty for at least 12 to 24 months. It'll save the consumer or the buyer a lot of pain should something go wrong.
If January is setting the tone, what do you think are possible risks, economic or consumer related, that maybe could disrupt this trajectory for the rest of the year?
I think, a little bit will hinge around local government elections and then heading into the national elections in 2028. I'm an optimist, so I look at the future in a positive way. So I think our geopolitical stance as a country could impact momentum. As you know, there was a news report the other day of a 50% tariff on the import of Chinese vehicles. That is a disruptor. Because it does mean that Chinese vehicle prices, should that get through the gates, will rise, which means that the traditional brands will become more competitive because the Chinese vehicle prices could rise depending on how China responds to a 50% tariff. So that is kind of one headwind for Chinese vehicles. Other than that, I think besides the geopolitical environment, the future of the country's education, the quality of people coming out of our schools, that is a big deal to driving the future of our economy. And then people coming out of schools are future car drivers. And then third to that is new technologies. So self-driving cars, I don't see that coming to South Africa very, very soon. Ride hailing and ride sharing, they've taken off in the form of Uber and Bolt, but that's where it's remained. So my outlook is that South Africa will continue to be a car driving and buying country for the foreseeable future.
Chief Executive Officer at Auto Trader. Have a look, find out more, get your next dream ride, autotrader.co.za. George Minnie, appreciate you joining us this evening, George. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Benito.
Awesome. Thanks, George.